Simone Harris perched on a park bench in Lakeside, her gaze fixed vacantly on the overcast spring clouds. It had been 3 months since her world shattered in an instant. 3 months following the burial. 3 months enduring unyielding agony every single moment. Her spouse Elijah and daughter Chloe, the pair who meant everything to her, were snatched away in a flash. A vehicle collision on State Highway 59, according to the official police summary. Their automobile veered over the median. The crash proved devastating. The semi-truck operator escaped the site and remained at large. Authorities wrapped up the investigation swiftly, far too swiftly, lacking clues, statements, or prospects. At 30, Simone caught sight of a reflection in the glass that appeared a decade more worn, completely devoured by sorrow. Her raven locks had dulled, her features gaunt, and her stare carried a haunting void. Tears no longer came. They had ebbed away 2 weeks post-service. What lingered was a heavy, unending throb deep within her spirit, an inseparable shadow. Elijah served as a rep for a logistics firm. His pay was solid enough, yet the loan on their modest apartment devoured the bulk of their earnings. Chloe attended second grade, aspiring to be a painter. She scribbled in journals, across walls, and right on her hands. Her vivid emerald eyes mirrored her dad's perfectly, and her infectious giggle once echoed through their space with warmth. That space existed no longer. Post-burial, expenses mounted rapidly. The policy payout fell short of the obligations, and Simone hadn't held a position in 2 years. She devoted time to Chloe at home, aiding with studies and overseeing the household. Their reserves stretched just 1 month. Afterward, she liquidated all worthwhile assets. Her marriage band, her mom's golden necklace, Elijah's computer. The lender seized the apartment. Simone relocated to a tight quarters in a lodging facility for $700 monthly. She retained funds for merely 2 weeks. Desperately, she hunted for employment, calling on scores of businesses and dispatching countless resumes. Each place sought prior roles, credentials, and endorsements. Simone possessed only an accounting qualification from 8 years back and a glaring gap in her work history. Employers had no use for a 30-year-old female lacking current background, mired in despair, scarcely keeping composed. 2 days prior, she signed up at an employment service. She completed the paperwork, then waited in a humid cubicle opposite a young woman with bold makeup and detached gaze. The coordinator scanned the documents, furrowing her brow and wagging her head. "Simone, you need to grasp that your circumstances are challenging," she intoned flatly. "Lacking background, it's tough. I might line up housekeeping, plate scrubbing, or perhaps a clerical role at base pay." Simone dipped her head without a word. Anything beat famishing in that dreary spot. The previous day, the service rang. "Simone," a lively man's tone announced via the line, "we've got a proposal for you. A resident caregiver role, top-notch employer, an affluent individual needing round-the-clock attention. Pay at $3,000 per month, plus meals, shelter, and your own space. Sound good?" Simone froze in shock. It exceeded Elijah's highest earnings. The offer felt unreal. "I've no background in caregiving," she faltered. "No issue," he assured. "This employer's unique. He seeks someone reliable, truthful, and subdued. You match. Begin the day after next." Simone agreed. Options were nil. Her funds had vanished. The lodging fee loomed in 3 days, and the fridge contained just a milk container and a pair of carrots. That morning, she bundled her scant items into a single bag and headed to the provided location via cab. The property sprawled as a crimson stone manor in a posh enclave roughly 30 miles from town. The ride drained her final 200 air. The dwelling loomed as a vast residence encircled by a tall barrier and a flawlessly tended landscape. Simone halted at the entrance, sensing herself an outcast at a fortress. The watchman verified her ID and swung open the barrier. She proceeded along the stone walkway to the veranda, where a sternly attired woman of middle years welcomed her, presenting herself as the property overseer. "I'm Dolores Vance," the lady stated briskly. This belongs to Mr. Coington. Your quarters lie upstairs, eastern section. Mr. Randall reposes currently. He'll see you tonight to outline responsibilities. The space proved spacious and luminous, featuring a grand pane facing the grounds, a pristine white mattress, wardrobe, writing table, easy chair, and ensuite bath with sleek amenities, plush linens, and fragrant cleanser. Simone sank onto the bedding, scarcely crediting the sight. Just yesterday, she'd endured a space with flaking walls and a communal bath nearby. Now she'd entered bliss. She stowed her sparse wardrobe in the wardrobe. A few blouses, 2 jean pairs, several skirts, undergarments. The rest she'd auctioned or discarded. Gazing at her sparse holdings, Simone felt a surge of humiliation overtake her. She had become a destitute woman, utterly reliant on the kindness of unknown benefactors. That night, an invitation came for her to join the evening meal in the dining hall. Simone made her way down the grand stairway, her pulse racing. It had been so long since she'd donned anything remotely suitable. Simple black trousers paired with a crisp white shirt, the sole outfit she had that passed muster. Seated at the extended dining table was a gentleman by the name of Randall Coington. He appeared to be around 60, his silver locks neatly swept backward, featuring a broad countenance and tinted lenses that concealed his gaze. He remained still, palms placed flat on the surface, his face angled toward the outdoors. "Simone?" he inquired in a gentle manner, his timbre resonant, serene, carrying a faint rasp. "Yes," she responded, her words quivering. "Take a seat, please. Dolores, bring out the supper." The household overseer carried in the dishes, a hearty vegetable beef broth, roasted meat alongside rice and braised greens, a vibrant green salad, and loaves of fresh bread. Simone hadn't savored a warm dish in ages. Her belly twisted in anticipation, yet she forced herself to dine deliberately, with poise, wary of seeming uncouth. "My vision faded 6 months back," Randall started, after Dolores Vance had exited the space. "Specialists suggest surgery could restore it, but at present, I'm biding my time for the ideal opportunity. I require an assistant close at hand for routine chores, to peruse articles and literature aloud, and to join me on strolls. It's straightforward work. Dolores oversees the residence. The chef handles the cuisine. The staff tends to the tidying. Your role is simply to stay near me." Simone inclined her head, then recalled his impairment. "I'll give it my best," she murmured. "I'll exert every effort possible." "You've endured a fresh bereavement," he remarked abruptly. "I'm aware. The service informed me." Simone went rigid. Her utensil halted midway to her lips, her neck constricted. Tears pricked her eyes. "Pardon my directness," Randall pressed on, his tone gentler. "I merely wish for you to understand that nobody on these grounds will pry into your past. You're protected here. Take time to grieve. Stay quiet if you need to. Just exist without scrutiny. Judgment has no place." She offered no reply, merely dipping her chin once more, oblivious to his sightlessness. Within, a swell of appreciation blended with ease washed over her. Perhaps in this place, she might evade the anguish temporarily. Perhaps she could draw breath without the weight of woe suffocating her. Post-meal, Dolores Vance escorted her to the chamber and outlined the schedule. Morning repast at 8, succeeded by reciting the news to Mr. Coington. Midday meal at 1, then a promenade through the grounds. Afternoons left open, supper at 7. The rhythm was meticulous, structured, and reliable. Simone settled onto the plush mattress, drawing the cozy quilt up high. For the initial time in ages, warmth enveloped her. Sustenance filled her. Security surrounded her. Still, a void lingered deep inside. Elijah and Chloe were gone forever, and here she resided in an unfamiliar abode, sustained by another's generosity. Shame ought to grip her, but weariness dominated instead. The initial 7 days flew by. Simone adapted to the unfamiliar routine. She joined for the dawn meal, then voiced the periodicals and volumes to Randall. He absorbed it all with focus, occasionally posing queries or seeking a section's reprise. Following the noon fare, they wandered the gardens. Her elbow hooked in his as she painted pictures of the blooms, the foliage, the heavens above. He spoke little, yet without harshness, a reticent soul, adrift in contemplation. Simone started to mend. Steady nourishment, rest on a yielding surface, and relief from perpetual strain restored a measure of vitality. The torment persisted, but dulled to a profound, concealed throb. She trained herself to sideline thoughts of Elijah and Chloe by daylight, though nocturnal sobs still escaped into her bedding, muffled by her hand to evade detection. On the 7th evening, as Simone readied for slumber, she'd slipped into her sleepwear and tended to her tresses when a faint, barely perceptible rap sounded at the entrance. Warily, she neared and unlatched it. There stood Randall Coington, absent his shaded eyewear, his stare fixed squarely upon her. His irises were a warm chestnut, vibrant and sharp. They held no vacant drift of the sight impaired. Instead, they locked onto hers, absorbing every nuance of her features. Simone recoiled, dazed, her lips parted, yet silence reigned. "I've observed you throughout the week," he uttered gently, his view unwavering. "The incident wasn't mere chance, Simone. The reality runs far deeper. If truth is what you seek, come with me." Simone remained rooted in the threshold, speechless. Her reality had inverted in an instant. Randall Coington possessed sight. Blindness was a fabrication. He'd maintained the ruse for days, and she'd discerned nothing. Now he confronted her, alluding to the crash that claimed Elijah and Chloe. You can see," she at last exhaled, her tone hoarse. "Indeed," he affirmed briskly. "Follow me. We must converse indiscreetly lest anyone overhear, particularly Dolores Vance. She's in the dark." He pivoted and proceeded along the corridor. Simone, driven by an unexplainable urge, pursued him. They navigated the steps, traversed the entrance hall, and Randall unfastened the portal to his study, flicking the illumination. The interior boasted a substantial oak writing table, upholstered seating, and towering shelves brimming with tomes. He secured the entrance, and he twisted the key in the lock 2 times. "Take a seat," he directed, gesturing toward the chair opposite the desk. Simone dropped into it, her limbs shaking. Randall settled into the chair behind the desk, linked his fingers, and remained quiet for a moment, collecting his ideas while examining her closely. "I run a large building company called Covington & Sons," he started deliberately, choosing each phrase with care. "My son Avery has managed operations for the last 6 months. On paper, I stepped away because of my vision loss. They think I'm undergoing care. Truth is, my eyesight is flawless. It never deserted me. I'm faking the blindness just to survive." Simone absorbed it all without a word, her mind reeling from the abrupt disclosure, her palms rising to cover her lips. "6 months back, I caught sight of a killing," Randall went on, his tone sharpening. "I was heading home late from work about 11 at night. My driver, Marcus, was at the wheel. We paused at a signal close to the factory area on the city's edge. In a shadowy lane amid the storage buildings, I spotted 3 guys savagely and methodically assaulting a 4th, obviously aiming to end him. Then one drew a pistol and fired 2 shots into the target's skull. The streetlight illuminated it all vividly for me. They spotted our vehicle. They realized I was peering out from inside. They jotted down the plate number." He halted, massaging his brow. Simone noticed his digits quivering. The following morning, 3 sharply dressed fellows with icy stares visited my workplace. They warned that I observed nothing that evening. They threatened that if I contacted authorities or shared details with anybody, death would follow. Starting with my driver Marcus, then my boy Avery, and finally me. They had full details on my relatives, homes, habits, the schools for my grandchildren, my daughter-in-law's job site. Fear gripped me. Simone, wealth doesn't make me brave. For my loved one's sake, I chose silence. Get it? Yeah. Simone dipped her head, dread rising. Sensing a dreadful reality she dreaded yet already suspected. 7 days after, my driver Marcus fell victim to a hit-and-run close to his place. Randall pressed on, his words fading to a hush. As he set out for his shift at dawn, a dark SUV barreled from a side street, struck him, and vanished. Marcus perished on impact. Cops turned up empty. The surveillance footage was allegedly down during the incident. It hit me then. They'd eliminated Marcus to prove their warnings weren't empty. That's the moment I resolved to simulate sight loss. I consulted physicians. I said the strain from Marcus's passing was dimming my view. I underwent exams. Medics detected no issues, yet I pushed back. I described my sight deteriorating rapidly. At last, I declared to all that a hazardous event had left me sightless entirely. I passed control of the firm to my son and withdrew from the spotlight, and the syndicate fell for it. A sightless observer poses no threat. He can't point out the perpetrators. The syndicate? Simone murmured, her mouth parched. What are they? Some outlaw group. Randall answered curtly, his gaze tightening. They traffic in illegal goods, wash cash, and carry out hired hits. Their boss is Devin the Duke Sterling, a ruthless and sly figure, ex-Army background. He boasts ties to law enforcement, the prosecutor's team, and local government. No one's reaching him. Regular folks can't. Informants vanish. Probes get shelved. Proof evaporates. Simone shut her lids, struggling to absorb the details. Was her spouse and child tangled in this horror too? Your spouse Elijah and your child Chloe also saw a crime, Randall stated, his delivery gentler, tinged with pity. I learned it accidentally via my connections. I maintain allies in the force, folks I've aided before who still confide in me. 1. Captain Ben Hayes, a longtime pal, shared the account. 3 months prior, in that identical factory zone, yet another slaying took place. The target was entrepreneur George Albright, proprietor of a retail network, who balked at Sterling's extortion fees. He got taken out in full view in a mall lot. Bystanders included a fellow and a young child, strolling by post errands. They glimpsed the assailant's features. The kid even captured the escape vehicle's plate with her device. They were frightened but reported it. They provided testimonies. Captain Hayes led the probe. 2 days on, their vehicle collided with a semi on State Highway 59. The fellow and the child perished right away. The rig operator escaped. Under high-level insistence, officers labeled it a mishap and sealed it. Simone's breath caught. Sobs traced her face, unnoticed by her. Elijah had approached the law, unknown to her. He'd sought to uphold fairness, and it claimed him and their girl. Slaughtered callously like beasts. Captain Hayes supplied the identities, Randall added. Elijah Harris and his daughter Chloe. I confirmed the details with my network. I discovered your identity. I found out you'd been abandoned, penniless, and without a home. Compassion welled up in me for your plight. I related to your suffering, having endured that nightmare firsthand. I reached out to the employment agency's head. I urged him to extend the position solely to you, excluding others. My intent was to assist, providing shelter, meals, and income. Yet now I see you merit even greater support. You ought to learn the reality behind your family's demise. Simone raised her gaze to meet his, tears streaming unchecked. Why share this with me? She inquired, her voice quivering and faint. Why at this moment? I'm weary of holding back, he replied straightforwardly. The anguish in his eyes was unmistakable. You deserve to understand the culprits responsible for your loved ones' deaths, And maybe, side by side, we can pursue retribution. But grasp this. Should you choose to move forward, peril awaits. Sterling shows no mercy to betrayers and eliminates survivors. Should he discover my site is intact, they'll end me. If he learns of your knowledge, they'll target you as well. Thus, all I've revealed remains confidential between us. I'd refute my statements to outsiders. I'd disavow it all if required. Do you comprehend? Simone inclined her head gradually. An emotion absent for 3 months stirred anew within her. Fury. A blazing, intense fury directed at those who'd stripped her of all. That wrath empowered her, dispelling the lethargy and occupying the void. I demand they face consequences, she murmured, her tone resolute as iron. I seek vengeance no matter the price. In that case, a strategy is essential, Randall noted, shifting closer. Along with support. You can't challenge such an organization solo. But I grasp the next steps. We must collect proof, locate a trustworthy law enforcement officer, and hand over the dossier. Though it could span weeks or even months. Are you prepared to endure the wait? I'm committed, Simone affirmed steadily, brushing away her tears. I'll tackle whatever comes. They lingered in the office another pair of hours, hashing out specifics. Randall disclosed all he knew regarding Sterling's crew. Their hideouts, like a derelict storage facility in the business district, a discreet corner at the Monarch Club in the city center, the roster of associates, Leo, Simon, Miguel, Roman, their ties to law enforcement, including multiple crooked badges who buried investigations. Simone absorbed it all, committing each phrase in particular to memory. Her inner fury evolved into a cold, unyielding resolve. Ascending to the upper level, the clock had struck beyond midnight. Simone retreated to her quarters, reclined on the mattress, yet sleep evaded her. Her mind whirled chaotically. Elijah and Chloe hadn't perished in mere misfortune. They'd been slain with calculated brutality, without remorse, and the perpetrators roamed unchecked, persisting in their lethal ways against innocents. But armed with the facts now, she possessed a mission to secure accountability by whatever means necessary. Dawn arrived bright and mild. The May sunlight bathed the chamber in warm amber hues. Avian melodies echoed from the grounds beyond the pane. Simone roused at first light. Her skull throbbed from the sleepless night, yet an inner blaze of purpose flickered steadily. She rose, splashed her features with icy water, and donned her everyday attire. Glancing into the glass, her visage remained hollowed, but a fresh spark gleamed in her stare. She now held direction. No longer merely a broken spouse, she embodied a seeker of reckoning. During the morning meal, Randall perched with his shaded lenses, enacting the sightless persona flawlessly amid the household help. Dolores Vance arranged the spread, chatting about domestic concerns, mending a boundary barrier, procuring provisions for the upcoming days, hiring fresh landscaping aid. Simone followed suit, acting routinely, voicing aloud from the periodical, pieces on governance, finances, and regional updates. Yet amid her and Randall, an unseen alliance had formed, a guarded pact. Post-meal, they wandered the grounds, tracing the route by clusters of tulips and narcissi. Simone linked her arm with his, per custom. Once sufficiently distant from the residence, he murmured without glancing aside. "Have you mulled over what I shared last evening?" "Indeed," she responded in kind, eyes fixed forward. "I yearn to proceed, yet I'm unsure how to begin. I'm just an everyday individual, lacking networks or know-how in such arenas." "You'll require a freelance sleuth," Randall suggested, halting near the water feature. "One to compile dirt on Sterling. I can't intervene openly. Discovery of my role would shatter my facade and seal my fate. Still, I'll furnish funds. Your initial compensation arrives in 7 days. 10 grand should suffice to engage a solid investigator for the initial efforts. Know of anyone fitting?" Simone queried with optimism. Not personally, but you can scout independently. Numerous firms operate locally. Select wisely. Seek out reliability. Scan feedback. Confirm their standing. And crucially, withhold any revelation about me. If the gumshoe probes your source on Sterling, claim you unearthed it via friends or the web. Craft a plausible tale. My involvement stays utterly concealed. Simone nodded. She memorized every detail of the plan, fully aware of its risks. It appeared straightforward on the surface. Yet she knew one misstep could tip off Sterling that they were plotting against him. "I'll proceed with caution," she assured him. "Extreme caution." The ensuing days dragged on in a state of heightened anxiety. She carried out her responsibilities as usual, reading aloud to Randall, strolling alongside him, and joining him on brief outings into town to maintain the facade. Evenings found her secluded in her quarters, using her outdated phone to scour the web for private investigation firms, scrutinizing customer feedback, and comparing fees. Options were limited. The majority focused on spying on unfaithful partners or locating runaway debtors. Few delved into weighty probes, but one firm caught her eye: Seward and Associates. Its founder, Anthony Seward, had left the force a decade prior, following a clash with his bosses over his insistence on pursuing charges against a powerful figure. He specialized in intricate matters, criminal probes, and compiling proof for court proceedings. Testimonials, while not abundant, glowed with approval. People commended his integrity, straightforward approach, and readiness to tackle perilous assignments. Costs ran steep, but remained reasonable. Simone concluded this was her sole viable choice. The week crawled by, each day stretching endlessly. Payday finally dawned. Dolores Vance passed Simone a bulky envelope stuffed with cash, $3,000 in crisp notes. Simone had never grasped such a hefty amount before. Her hands shook slightly as she tallied the bills. This was her opening, her first step toward reckoning. She tucked the envelope away in her handbag, her pulse racing with a blend of thrill and dread. The subsequent morning, a Saturday, she sought the day free. She explained to Dolores Vance that she had errands in the urban area, some purchases, a medical checkup. The household overseer approved without probing deeply. Simone arranged a cab for 10:00 a.m. The Seward and Associates headquarters lay in the city center, perched on the third level of a nondescript commercial structure on a serene lane. Simone ascended the steps and located the correct entrance. A sign displayed the firm's title alongside an emblem, a sleek eye overlaid with a lens. She rapped twice before stepping inside. A woman in her mid-20s, dressed in professional attire, occupied the front desk. She glanced up and offered a courteous smile. "Good morning. What brings you here?" "I'd like to speak with Mr. Seward," Simone replied, striving for composure. "It's about a grave matter." "Just a second." The receptionist picked up the phone, murmured into it while shielding the mouthpiece, then nodded approvingly at Simone. "Mr. Seward is available. Head through to the room on the right." Simone eased the door ajar and walked in. The space was modest yet inviting, lined with racks of law volumes and dossiers, a workstation equipped with a PC, and a pair of guest seats. Seated at the desk was a man in his 40s, his dark hair cropped short and flecked with silver at the sides, his angular visage marked by piercing gray eyes that appeared to pierce directly into one's soul. He rose, offering his hand over the surface. "Anthony Seward, have a seat." Simone clasped it, solid and assured, before settling into the chair. Anthony resumed his position across from her, folding his fingers on the desktop as he regarded her intently, awaiting her words. "I'm Simone Harris," she started, her tone quivering faintly, though she willed it to steady. "3 months back, my spouse Elijah and our little girl Chloe perished in a vehicle collision. Authorities ruled it accidental and shelved the file. But I've uncovered the truth. It was deliberate. They were murdered for stumbling upon a felony. I require your assistance to uncover proof and ensure the perpetrators face consequences." Anthony Seward absorbed her account in silence. His expression stayed neutral, yet his gaze followed her gestures with unwavering focus. "Give me the full picture," he urged evenly, retrieving a notebook. "From where did you obtain this intel about foul play? What convinces you it's homicide?" Simone drew in a steadying breath. She had rehearsed her narrative in advance, per Randall's guidance. Conviction was key, without exposing the real origin of her knowledge. "I discovered a USB drive stashed in my husband's belongings," she pressed on, aiming for assurance. He'd concealed it well. Inside were images from that fateful day when they became observers. He captured shots of the offense site, the offenders' visages, and the getaway vehicle's registration. I delved into research, chatting with Elijah's contacts, poring over reports of comparable incidents. Gradually, I pieced together the identity of the orchestrator, Devin Sterling. He commands a syndicate of outlaws. Elijah and Chloe caught his crew in the act of slaying someone. To silence potential witnesses, they were taken out. Anthony Seward's brow creased as he noted the essentials. "Devin Sterling carries considerable weight," he remarked deliberately, setting aside his writing tool. "Should your suspicions hold, we're dealing with a highly perilous endeavor. A few clarifications. Where's that USB now? Why bypass the authorities with such damning material?" "I got rid of it," Simone fibbed on the spot as planned. "I worried that the wrong folks might stumble upon it. I destroyed it by fire, but every detail sticks in my mind. I recall the license plate number. I remember those faces clearly. And I've heard Sterling has ties to the police force. That's what makes me hesitant to approach them straight on. I need stronger proof they can't bury." "I get your concerns. They're valid." The investigator nodded. "Lacking tangible evidence, building a case will prove challenging, though not out of reach. I could seek out witnesses, compile data on Sterling's operations, and hunt for alternative clues. Are you ready to cover the expenses for an inquiry like this?" "Absolutely." "What's the fee?" "It varies based on the intricacy and duration. Something this scale demands significant effort, maybe even risky fieldwork. My rate is $10,000 upfront for the initial month's labor. Should I uncover solid proof and the matter proceeds to court, an additional $5,000 at the end. If the first month yields no breakthroughs, I'll refund half the deposit. Do these conditions work for you?" Simone agreed promptly. $10,000, matching her recent earnings precisely. She retrieved the envelope from her handbag and set the cash in a tidy pile on the desk. "When will you commence?" "Right away," Anthony Seward answered, securing the funds in a drawer. "Share every bit of intel you have, individuals involved, timelines, locations, any specifics, whatever aids the probe." Simone relayed all she'd gleaned from Randall, steering clear of his identity. She described Sterling's crew, his associates, Leo, Simon, Miguel, Roman, their hangouts, the derelict warehouse, the Monarch Club, their law enforcement links, and the illicit trade rackets. Anthony jotted notes, posed follow-up queries, and had her reiterate key aspects. Their discussion stretched past an hour. "All right," he concluded, snapping the notebook shut. "That's sufficient to launch things. I'll start with fact-checking these elements. I'll seek out potential witnesses open to speaking. I'll search for records validating Sterling's criminal links. This could span weeks. I'll provide steady updates on progress. Let me have your contact number." Simone provided it. They clasped hands resolutely. On the street outside, Simone halted, inhaling the fresh spring breeze deeply. The initial move was made. The detective was on board. Now, it was just a matter of patience and faith that he'd deliver the required revelations. She arrived back at Randall's property that night. Dolores Vance met her in the entryway, inquiring about the outing. Simone responded curtly, "It all smoothed out. I got what I went for." The household overseer acknowledged and headed to the kitchen to prepare the meal. Simone ascended to her quarters and collapsed onto the mattress. Her frame shook with residual anxiety. She'd pulled it off. A private eye was now in her employ. The journey toward accountability had commenced, yet it promised periods of doubt, dread, and suspense ahead. Over the next 2 weeks, Simone endured a tormenting vigil. Days blurred into one another. Mornings began with meals alongside Randall, scanning the news, strolls through the grounds, midday eats, leisure hours, evening suppers, then rest. The pattern steadied her, warding off madness. Yet an inner blaze of restlessness smoldered. She strove to appear composed, masking her strain, avoiding any red flags for Dolores Vance or the other employees. In private garden moments, Randall would probe the investigation's status. Simone kept it succinct. "The investigator's on it. Results are pending." He'd affirm with a nod, gripping her hand reassuringly. Anthony Seward phoned thrice in that span. First, 5 days post-consultation. He noted probing Sterling's municipal ties and uncovering promising trails. Next, 7 days on, he'd located a former gang member who'd exited and agreed to converse, though persuasion for a formal statement was ongoing amid their safety fears. On the 13th day, he revealed paperwork substantiating fund siphoning via Sterling's dummy firms. With every update, optimism swelled within Simone. Momentum built, proof accumulated. Before long, her kin's murderers would face reckoning. Nights brought haunting dreams, though. Visions of Elijah and Chloe trapped in the Inferno vehicle, their cries echoing as she strained to reach them, legs frozen. She'd jolt awake drenched and sobbing quietly into her bedding, petrified of detection. Come the 16th morning, Anthony Seward rang once more. Excitement laced his tone, laced with victory. "Simone, we must convene without delay. I've got crucial intel. Pivotal stuff that might flip the entire affair. Where and when?" She pressed, pulse pounding, fingers quivering. "Tonight at 7 the corner bistro on Main Street. Familiar with it?" "I'll track it down," Simone vowed. "Come by yourself. That's crucial. And stay alert. Ensure nobody's tailing you." She sought approval from Dolores Vance to head into town that night, claiming she had to pick up an item. The property overseer scowled but approved it. Simone arranged a cab for 7 p.m. The hours crawled by at an agonizing pace. She attempted to read aloud to Randall, yet kept drifting from the story's flow. He picked up on her anxiety. During their solitary stroll, he murmured, "Is everything okay?" The investigator uncovered vital details. Simone confided softly, "We're connecting tonight. He mentioned it might alter the whole situation." "Stay cautious," Randall urged gravely. "Extra vigilant. If Sterling learns of the probe targeting him, he'll make moves. Avoid drawing eyes, skip any names, leave no trail." "I'll watch my step," she assured him. The bistro on the corner proved to be a modest spot on the first floor of an apartment complex, featuring plain decor and sparse patrons. Simone stepped inside right at 7 scanning the space. Anthony Seward occupied a rear table backed against the wall, giving him a full view of the area. He signaled upon spotting her. She approached and took the seat opposite. "What turned up?" she inquired directly, edging closer. Anthony slid a hefty binder of files across the surface toward her. "Plenty," he answered somberly, dropping his tone. "An overwhelming lot. Pay attention. I cross-checked every detail you shared on Devin Sterling. He's truly the head of a vast illicit network. They specialize in large-scale smuggling, rinsing funds via fake firms, and assassinations of troublesome individuals. Sterling boasts strong ties in law enforcement, the prosecutor's team, and municipal government. He shells out payoffs, scares off testimonies, and shelves investigations. He's shielded like an impregnable citadel. Yet I pinpointed the crack in that defense." "What's the vulnerability?" She exhaled. 3 years back, one of his underlings, Lionel Leo Thompson, got nabbed with a massive drug haul. Anthony detailed, flipping open the binder to reveal snapshots. He was busted in the act. The proof was airtight. The judge handed down 5 years in a maximum security prison, but after just 1 year, he got an abrupt early release. A high-powered figure shelled out for his freedom, greased the necessary palms, probably Sterling in person. Thompson served as his key deputy. He held far too many secrets. Post-freedom, he rejoined the crew, resuming duties for Sterling. But I tracked down his former spouse, Brenda Thompson. They'd split during his incarceration. She revealed something compelling. Leo meticulously logged every transaction. Names, timelines, cash sums, rendezvous spots, specifics of each offense. He jotted it all in hefty ledgers, stashing them as a safeguard should Sterling turn on him. He concealed those logs in a safe haven prior to his capture. Simone absorbed it all, barely breathing, her gaze locked on the investigator's features. "Have you located those logs?" "Where might they be?" "Not quite," Anthony denied with a headshake. "But Brenda's ready to assist. She despises Sterling and holds him accountable for corrupting her partner. She'll give evidence against the entire outfit and disclose Leo's hiding place for the logs." "These could be pivotal proofs, Simone. Armed with those entries, we can launch a comprehensive prosecution against Sterling and his syndicate. They'll supply identities, data, and metrics, precisely what the inquiry requires." "And Lionel Thompson himself?" Simone probed anxiously. "Where's he at these days? Could he provide a statement too?" "Regrettably, Leo's gone," Anthony stated gloomily. "He passed 2 months prior. On paper, he drowned in the waterway after tumbling from a bridge in an inebriated state. No bystanders. Surveillance gear there had failed. In truth, I'm fairly convinced Sterling ordered the hit. Likely, the leader caught wind of the logs and chose to eliminate the risky associate. But the logs evaded discovery since Leo never disclosed the spot to anyone. He merely dropped hints to his wife about where to search if harm befell him. Simone fell quiet. So tangible proof existed. A solid shot at locking up Sterling and his crew for good. "What's our next step?" she ventured softly. "We require a trustworthy cop, a sleuth undaunted by such challenges," Anthony responded, securing the binder. "I've vetted a few prospects over recent days. Many are either bought off and beholden to Sterling, or too timid about their safety and jobs to tackle it. But one individual stands out as our ally. Detective Ethan Bell from the Elite Probes Unit, age 35. He transferred here 6 months ago from Seattle. He's known as a steadfast, incorruptible figure who stands firm. In Seattle, he cracked open multiple prominent cases involving powerful politicians and executives. He turned down hefty payoffs on 2 occasions, even facing intimidation for it. I've done thorough checks via my sources. In this messed up world of ours, he's as upright as they come. You can count on him. Are you absolutely certain?" Simone questioned skeptically. "What if he's rotten too? Just better at concealing it." "Naturally, no one's offering ironclad assurance," the investigator conceded forthrightly. "Still, I've scrutinized him meticulously. I chatted with his old partners from Seattle. This guy's genuinely committed to the rule of law and fairness. Rarer than hen's teeth these days, yet they persist. If we're aiming for accountability via proper channels, we must gamble a bit and put faith in him." Simone mulled it over, nibbling her lower lip. The stakes were sky high. Should the investigator prove untrustworthy or leak details to Sterling, death would follow for everyone involved. Her, the investigator, Randall, and even Thompson's former spouse. Yet alternatives didn't exist. "Fine," she agreed with a firm tilt of her head. "When do we connect with him?" "I've set up the initial setup," Anthony responded, a faint grin crossing his face. "Wednesday, the day after next, at 10 a.m. He'll host us in his workspace. I'll deliver every bit of intel I've compiled over the past week. Brenda Thompson joins us too, set to deliver a formal affidavit under oath. Should Detective Bell commit to the matter, we'll stand a solid shot at getting it to court and prevailing." "Count me in," Simone declared resolutely, straightening her posture. "I'll handle anything required." They hashed out a few more specifics, then parted ways. Simone exited the bistro and paused on the pavement, scanning her surroundings. Street lamps glowed steadily. Pedestrians strolled past. Vehicles cruised along. Everyday bustle in an ordinary urban sprawl. Yet amid it all, the murderer of her loved ones roamed unchecked, maybe scheming fresh offenses. But capture loomed near, imminently so. She held that conviction deep within. Simone arrived back at Randall's property deep into the evening. Her mind swirled with ideas and strategies. Randall awaited in the lounge, ensconced in a recliner. As Dolores Vance slipped off to the galley, he inquired in a hushed tone, "How'd it unfold?" "Promising?" Simone murmured, bending closer. "Extremely so. The investigator uncovered proof. Wednesday next, our session with the examiner. Anthony vouches for his integrity. If plans align smoothly, they might launch an inquiry." Randall inclined his head gradually, adjusting his spectacles downward to meet her gaze. "Thus the peak draws nigh," he murmured gently. "Steel yourself for surprises, Simone. And bear in mind, should matters derail, I'll disavow it all. I'm unaware. You're merely my attendant. Clear." "Crystal," she affirmed with a nod, "rest easy. Your involvement stays unspoken." Sleep eluded Simone that evening. She remained alert, fixating on the overhead, reflections on Elijah and Chloe consuming her. Imminently, their assailants would face due reckoning. Fairness could indeed prevail in this harsh realm. Come Wednesday dawn, Simone once more sought leave to head downtown. On this occasion, she informed Dolores Vance of a need to settle paperwork at the county registrar concerning her late partner's holdings. The property overseer scowled, yet refrained from probing deeply, and summoned a cab. The prosecutor's headquarters rose as a drab, bureaucratic edifice of cement. Simone linked up with Anthony Seward in the entrance hall precisely at 9:30. Accompanying him stood a lady nearing 40, slender and ashen-faced, her gaze laced with fear and gestures jittery. That was Brenda Thompson, once wed to the deceased Leo. They cleared the checkpoint, flashing identification, then ascended the stark steps to level 3. Detective Bell's quarters lay at the corridor's far end. Anthony rapped the panel twice. "A crisp enter, please," responded. They stepped inside. At an aged oak bureau piled with files and papers perched a fellow around 35, robust and poised, sporting trimmed fair locks, a resolute visage marked by an even nose and resolute jawline, plus sharp azure orbs. He rose upon their entry, offered salutations, and gestured to the crimson-upholstered seats facing the surface. "Ethan Bell, Special Probes Unit," he presented. "Anthony tipped me off regarding your arrival. Have a seat." His tone rang steady, assured, and reassuring. Simone settled, clasping her fingers tightly, her pulse racing. "Simone Harris," she stated. "Grateful you spared time for us." Anthony outlined the basics. Ethan Bell acknowledged with a dip of his chin. "Your spouse and child perished in a vehicle mishap scarcely 3 months back. You suspect foul play, a deliberate slaying tied to Devin Sterling's illicit network. I'll attend to your points with focus and review the documents supplied. However, I must caution up front. Sterling wields grave clout and peril. Engaging here commits us irrevocably." "I grasp the full peril," Simone countered steadfastly. Meeting his eyes directly, Simone stared straight into his eyes. Her husband and daughter had been murdered. They died after spotting a crime and attempting to alert the authorities. She demanded justice. She insisted the perpetrators face legal consequences. Ethan Bell regarded her closely, gauging her determination and willingness to pursue this fully. After a moment, he inclined his head. "Fine. Let's see your evidence." Anthony Seard set the hefty dossier containing the case files onto the table and launched into his systematic briefing. "We've compiled statements from multiple eyewitnesses, verifying that Elijah Harris and his child Chloe observed the slaying of entrepreneur George Albright in the mall's lot 3 months back. These are duplicates of the reports they filed at the nearby station. Next, shots from the incident site, and details indicating that just 2 days following their deposition, their vehicle was rammed by a semi on the interstate. The authorities labeled it a hit and run, with the operator vanishing. Truth is, it was a hit commissioned by Sterling's syndicate. He extracted the following bundle of files. Now, intel on the syndicate proper, schemes for washing cash via dummy firms, proof of smuggling ops, ties to crooked bureaucrats and cops, and crucially, the account from Brenda Thompson, former spouse of the late Lionel Thompson, Sterling's key lieutenant. Brenda fidgeted with her lower lip, yet her words emerged in a quivering tone. My former partner, Leo, served under Sterling for more than a decade. He handled the shipment and distribution of banned drugs. He took part in hired assassinations. I was aware of his activities, but terror kept me from departing. He menaced me and my mom. When authorities locked him up 3 years prior, I ended the marriage. Yet prior to his capture, he confided that should harm befall him, I needed to grasp the reality. He maintained meticulous logs of the outfit's operations, individuals, timelines, sums, offenses. He stashed them as leverage. Those ledgers remain concealed at a secure spot in his folks' former homestead in the quaint village of Fairport, 20 miles outside the urban area. I can guide you precisely. Ethan Bell absorbed it all attentively, jotting entries in his pad. His expression stayed neutral, though his gaze scrutinized every file. He sifted through the sheets, scanned the affidavits, and inspected the images. Roughly 15 minutes of strained quiet elapsed. At last, the sleuth raised his view to connect with the trio's stares. These files carry grave weight, he articulated deliberately, sliding the stack away. Should verification uphold even a portion, we'd possess ample cause to launch proceedings against Devin Sterling and his whole illicit network. However, grasp this. Peril looms large. Discovery of a probe could spur him to silence all participants. We grasp the hazards, Anthony Seard affirmed resolutely. Yet inaction now lets him persist in bloodshed. How many additional lives must perish? Ethan Bell dipped his chin. Valid point. I'll assume responsibility here, though it'll demand patience. Validation of these assets, fresh interviews with deponents, retrieval of those Thompson logs, supplemental proof collection, and fieldwork ops. All that spans months minimally. Understood, Simone replied, her tone unyielding as iron. The outcome matters most, holding them accountable for their atrocities. Outcomes will follow, the probe lead vowed steadfastly, locking eyes with her. My assurance, I'll drive this matter through regardless of obstacles. Here's my personal contact. I'll update you on key advances as things unfold. But utmost vigilance from this point. Share nothing of our session. Avoid spotlighting yourselves unduly. Sense surveillance or peril. Alert me at once. Security can be deployed. They noted his digits. They revisited specifics once more. Brenda outlined the precise nook housing Leo's documents within the aged homestead. Ethan Bell committed to scheduling a venture there shortly to secure the items. The session wrapped after 60 minutes. Farewells exchanged, they exited the space. Outside the prosecutor's headquarters, Simone clasped Anthony Seard's palm. Gratitude, she expressed profoundly, moisture gathering in her eyes. Profound thanks for your efforts. Absent your aid, I'd never have arrived here. No need for thanks, the gumshoe responded, giving her shoulder a gentle tap. Aiding truth seekers is my duty. You're remarkably courageous, Simone. Stay resolute. Progress builds. Brenda Thompson bid adieu too with unease, clasping Simone's in the sleuth's grips. I suspect Sterling orchestrated Leo's demise, she murmured softly. And I seek reckoning not just for your kin, but for my old man too. Though I despised his criminal turn, Sterling forged that path. Let him languish behind bars eternally. Simone headed back to Randall's property around midday. Simone's heart swelled with optimism, a spark of brightness that hadn't graced her life in ages. The investigation was gaining momentum. Bell proved to be an upright individual, dedicated to his craft. He'd exhaust every option to lock away Sterling and his crew. The ensuing weeks dragged on with excruciating slowness, each moment stretching into forever. Ethan Bell labored without pause. Drawing from Leo Thompson's ledgers, the probe pinpointed the gang's sanctuary. Brenda pinpointed the precise location within the barn. Hidden there lay 5 hefty journals, scrawled in tiny script. The contents were staggering. Listings of contacts, timelines, sums exchanged, accounts of slayings, and further offenses spanning the prior decade. It formed an invaluable trove for the authorities. 2 weeks on, Bell conducted a sworn deposition with Thompson's former spouse. Her statements aligned seamlessly with the logs. Additionally, he secured 2 more informants ready to speak out against Sterling, ex-associates who defected and dreaded retaliation. The prosecution launched formally, indicting them for extortion schemes, smuggling illicit goods, and hired assassinations. 10 days afterward, the probe intensified. Raids unfolded, paperwork was confiscated from Sterling's front businesses, and deponents faced questioning. Evidence piled up for each infraction chronicled. A month and a half into the effort, Ethan Bell reached out to Simone bearing crucial updates. His tone brimmed with enthusiasm. "Simone, we're on the verge," the detective assured her. "Brace yourself, you could be summoned to give evidence as a stakeholder and kin to the victims. It's routine." "I'm set," Simone responded steadily, her words unwavering. "For anything required." She set down the receiver and buried her face in her palms. Salty drops traced her skin, yet these marked solace, a long overdue unburdening. At last, the ordeal neared its close. Imminently, those responsible for Elijah and Chloe's deaths would face confinement as justice demanded. The takedowns occurred on a chilly spring dawn, midweek, precisely 2 months from the case's formal start. Ethan Bell dialed Simone at dawn, around 7:30 a.m., as she stirred from sleep. "Simone, it went off without a hitch," he announced, his inflection laced with fatigue yet victory. Devin Sterling was nabbed this morning at 6:00 a.m., right at his estate on the urban fringe. 4 of his top allies got collared alongside: Simon Quiroga, Miguel Veranda, Roman Zordo, Vince Davis, and Omar Salazar. They're all secured in a high-alert facility now, facing counts of organized crime, massive-scale banned merchandise distribution, and orchestrated hits, including the slaying of your spouse, Elijah Harris, and your child, Chloe. The dossier heads to trial soon. Expect a hearing in about 2 months. Simone absorbed it all, scarcely trusting the revelation that closure had arrived. Her grip shook on the device. Her pulse raced wildly. "Is this real?" she murmured. "Has it truly come to pass?" "Affirmative," Bell soothed. "They're detained and held. The proof arrayed against them is ironclad. Thompson's files, deponent accounts, raid halls, forensic analyses. Escape is impossible. Right will triumph, Simone, that's my word." Gratitude choked her reply amid the sobs. "Thank you immensely. You have no idea the weight this lifts." "I do," he said gravely, "and I'm honored to contribute. Your loved ones showed courage. They merit seeing their assailants held accountable." Simone wrapped up the exchange and sank onto the mattress. Tremors racked her frame. She'd pulled it off. With Anthony Seard and Ethan Bell at her side, she'd conquered the inconceivable, unearthing fairness in a realm where it felt like legend. She slipped into clothes swiftly, descended the stairs, and spotted Randall in the den. He lounged in a chair, tuned to the AM broadcast, cradling his brew. At the sound of her approach, he pivoted. "They've got them," Simone murmured softly. "The entire outfit. Sterling's locked up, it's done." Finally, Randall eased off the shaded lenses he clung to from old routines around the help, despite his vision's return being common knowledge. His gaze glistened with emotion. "Praise be," he uttered hoarsely, voice quivering. "This torment has truly ended." "For us both," Simone affirmed, drawing near with a nod. "And for you and yours, it spells liberation. No more seclusion or facades. Live freely, sans the shadow of reprisal. And for me as well, he concurred, rising to envelop her in a fatherly clasp. My deepest thanks, Simone. You've shown a strength I lacked. I cowered to shield my kin. You battled through to victory. You're an extraordinary soul. You provided the spark. She responded by brushing away her tears. It gave me the opportunity to uncover the reality. Without your involvement, I'd have continued in the dark, oblivious to the ones responsible for my family's death. You put yourself in danger, revealed your hidden truth to aid someone you didn't even know. I'll forever owe you my gratitude. They held each other close, survivors of terror and dread who at last discovered solace. Beyond the windows, sunlight beamed brightly. Songbirds filled the air with melody. Existence pressed forward. The ensuing weeks unfolded with comparative tranquility. Ethan Bell reached out often, updating her on the probe's advancements. Sterling and his cronies staunchly denied any wrongdoing, retained high-priced legal counsel, and attempted to intimidate testifiers via their released kin. Yet the proof was overwhelming. Thompson's logs offered irrefutable clarity. Accounts from numerous observers validated each offense. Forensic analyses linked them directly to particular incidents. The opposing counsel couldn't dismantle the sheer weight of the material. Randall publicly declared his vision restored completely following overseas therapy. He resumed leading the firm actively with his son Avery. The tale of his feigned impairment stayed confidential. He urged Simone to guard that confidence eternally. And she consented. Certain confidences ought to stay buried. 2.5 months onward, the eagerly anticipated court proceedings commenced. Simone was present at each hearing without fail. She took her place in the audience beside relatives of Sterling's other casualties. Their numbers were vast, excessively so. Her gaze fixed on Devon Sterling and his partners confined in the dock. They appeared ordinary, mature gentlemen clad in somber attire with forgettable features. It proved difficult to accept that these individuals had ruthlessly slain her loved ones and countless other blameless souls. The proceedings stretched nearly a month, spanning 4 weeks of hearings, questioning, and evidence examination. The prosecution systematically laid out the details sequentially. Thompson's documents, observer statements, specialist assessments, monetary papers. The defense team labored to dismantle the accusations, spot discrepancies, and undermine the testifiers. Yet their efforts proved futile. The abundance of substantiation rendered any rebuttal impossible. At last, the judgment day came. The chamber brimmed with attendees, reporters armed with lenses, sufferers, kin, and mere onlookers drawn to the notorious affair. Simone claimed a seat in the foremost row. The magistrate recited the ruling at length in a steady tone, enumerating each violation, each datum, each occurrence. Simone absorbed it all, breath suspended, dreading to overlook anything. Devon Sterling received a 25-year term in a federal prison, coupled with the seizure of his entire assets. Subsequently, the judge delivered verdicts for the remaining accused, 15 to 22 years behind bars. As the judge concluded and banged the gavel to end the sitting, a hush enveloped the space for a few moments. Then cheers broke out, shouts of liberation from the bereaved clans. Some sobbed, others embraced, while a few remained frozen in shock. Simone shielded her visage with her palms and wept. For the first instance across those many months, her tears stemmed not from sorrow, but from release. She had succeeded. Fairness had triumphed. The perpetrators against her family would languish out their days in confinement, precisely where they fit. Post-hearing, Ethan Bell neared her. He rested a palm on her arm. "You handled it superbly, Simone," he murmured gently. "Few possess the resolve to traverse such a journey fully. Take pride in your achievement." Simone rebutted, lifting her gaze through moist eyes. You accomplished the remarkable feat. By embracing this matter, you braved Sterling's clout. You pushed it all the way to adjudication. You're the genuine champion. I merely fulfilled my duties, the detective answered humbly. The role for which I'm compensated, defending order and equity. Your spouse and child merited seeing their assailant held accountable. Now they may find eternal calm. They clasped hands. Simone sensed reassurance, solidarity, and vigor flowing from his grip. An inner part of her stirred in response to that comfort. Following the adjudication, Simone's existence slowly transformed, gaining fresh vibrancy. True to his pledge, Randall extended her a legitimate role at his enterprise. Simone, he remarked one night during supper on the estate's veranda, you're free from any duty to serve as my attendant anymore. That pretense sufficed only as camouflage. Still, I'd value your continued presence, albeit in another capacity. Our business requires a capable bookkeeper. Your qualifications align perfectly. Though your practical background is limited, your intelligence, integrity, and diligence shine through. I'm proposing a spot in our downtown finance unit. Compensation starts at $4,500 monthly, supplemented by comprehensive perks, medical coverage, and avenues for career advancement. Your thoughts? Simone stared in astonishment at the proposition. She hadn't foreseen this development. Do you mean it? But I scarcely have, and without any real hands-on background, I'd hardly toiled in my area before. Dead serious, Randall insisted with conviction. You've merited this through your bravery and integrity. You endured unimaginable torment and stayed unbroken. You avoided turning resentful. You battled for righteousness, endangering yourself in the process. Folks like that are scarce in our era. You merit a steady, respectable existence. Moreover, I have absolute faith in you, and in commerce, confidence outweighs all prior know-how. Simone agreed without much deliberation. 7 days on, she dove into her role at the Covington and Sons headquarters in the city's financial district, focusing on finance tasks. The duties proved engaging and manageable given her schooling. She managed paperwork, compiled summaries, reviewed bills, and liaised with suppliers. Her coworkers were approachable and eager to guide the fresh face. The department lead, a no-nonsense yet equitable fellow in his 50s by the name of Frankie Jones, took the time to clarify every detail, assisting her in mastering the bookkeeping program. Gradually, one day at a time, Simone started reclaiming her vitality. Using her initial complete salary, she secured a modest one-room flat in a modern structure on the 5th level, offering sights of greenery. She outfitted it simply yet cozily. She acquired essential pieces like furnishings, gadgets, utensils, and linens. For the first occasion in ages, she possessed her private dwelling, her solitary haven. Over free days, she strolled the urban landscape, uncovering fresh spots, eateries, green spaces, galleries, and reading halls. She resumed devouring novels, viewing films, and tuning into tunes. The sorrow from Elijah and Chloe's departure lingered on. It stayed embedded within, a permanent facet of her being. Yet Simone figured out how to coexist with that ache, refusing to let it devour her whole world. She realized she deserved renewed happiness, that Elijah and Chloe would have wished for her to embrace a vibrant existence rather than merely surviving in endless grief. Ethan Bell would ring from time to time, inquiring about her progress, job, and spirits. They occasionally crossed paths, sipping coffee in a quaint, inviting spot close to her place, chatting on careers, existence, and the metropolis. Simone sensed a bond strengthening between them. Something unique, beyond mere companionship, though not yet clear. Ethan was an intelligent, truthful, resilient individual with solid values and a compassionate core. He grasped her suffering sans excess chatter. He avoided soothing her with trite phrases. He just remained present whenever required. He shared tales of his profession and his aspirations, crafting an equitable legal framework where regulations serve all impartially. On a mild September night, half a year post the Sterling proceedings, Ethan proposed a meal at an eatery to Simone. They claimed seats near the pane with a river panorama, savored fine cuisine, sipped fine vintage, and conversed on myriad topics and trivia. "Simone," Ethan uttered abruptly, locking eyes with her, "I need to share this. I hold you in high regard. Truly, I do. You've weathered a horrific trial. You've forfeited those nearest to you. You've ended up utterly isolated. Yet you held firm. You steered clear of cynicism against the universe. You championed fairness, staking your safety. You've accomplished what so few manage. And amid it all, you've preserved your humanity, your warmth, your openness, and your ability to unearth delight once more. You've demonstrated to me that equity can prevail, even amid apparent injustice. You've restored my belief in my calling, in the significance of my efforts." Simone flushed, averting her gaze, sensing warmth in her face. "Wouldn't anybody in my situation have done likewise?" she murmured gently. "No," he countered resolutely, denying with a headshake. "The majority would have surrendered, submitted to the bereavement, swallowed the sanctioned account of the mishap. You pressed forward regardless of terror and peril. That's exceptional valor." He reached his palm across the surface toward her. His grasp felt inviting, sturdy, and dependable. Simone lifted her sight and connected with his stare. In those azure depths, she detected tenderness, concern, and a depth surpassing basic camaraderie. "I'd love to understand you more deeply," Ethan expressed quietly yet assuredly. "To share additional moments, to integrate into your world, if that's agreeable. I get that it's premature, that your emotions still sting, but I'm prepared to be patient indefinitely." Oh, Simone was at a loss for words. Inner turmoil waged war. One side still gripped Elijah's recollection tightly. She experienced remorse for permitting interest in another fellow. How could I entertain fresh romance when Elijah's absence marks just 1 year? How could I dishonor his legacy? But the other side pulled her toward Ethan, toward his fortitude, candor, and sincere attention. She yearned for vitality, for the chance at joy, affection, and renewal. And that side assured her that Elijah wouldn't desire her eternal solitude, entombed in bygone days. "I require some space," she breathed, clasping his fingers back. "A bit of space to untangle my emotions." "Take every moment necessary," he answered kindly with a grin. "No pressure from me. I'll stay close." Dear, they carried on. They continued their relationship at a gentle pace, allowing it to unfold without pressure. Ethan was always present for her when she required support, offering care and understanding. Over time, Simone started sharing more deeply with him. She recounted her experiences with Elijah in vivid detail, their meeting in college, his patient pursuit of her, the romantic proposal atop her dormitory roof beneath a starry sky, Chloe's arrival, the blissful early days of their marriage brimming with affection, and those everyday joys like shared morning meals, strolls through the park, and family getaways. Ethan paid close attention, refraining from any interruptions. He avoided drawing parallels to Elijah. Instead, he just clasped her hand and allowed her to express herself freely. "I'll never take your husband's place," he remarked one afternoon as they rested on a bench in the park, gazing at the fading sun. "And I have no intention of attempting it. You built a beautiful chapter with him, a love that remains etched in your soul eternally. But I'm here to create a fresh chapter alongside you, one that's distinct, yet equally genuine. I can stand with you, bolster you, and cherish you the way you truly merit, if you give me the chance." Tears welled up in Simone's eyes as she enveloped him in a fierce embrace, pressing her face against his shoulder. For the first time in countless months, a spark of vitality returned to her. Her once stilled heart seemed to warm and pulse once more. Yes, she murmured amid her sobs. I will. I want to give this a shot. I want to embrace life forward. Time moved on, and a year later, Simone and Ethan had formed a solid partnership. They hadn't merged households yet, each kept their own place, but their weekends and spare evenings were invariably shared. They explored theaters, attended live music events, and visited art galleries. They escaped to nearby areas for lakeside outings and picnics, savoring one another's presence in quiet ways. Ethan brought Simone to meet his folks, a pair of retired scholars residing on the urban fringe. His dad had been a high school history instructor before retiring, and his mom a pediatric doctor. They welcomed her with genuine warmth, steering clear of prying into her history. They were merely delighted that their boy had connected with someone so fitting. Simone, in turn, presented Ethan to Randall Coington. Randall hosted them for a sumptuous midday meal at his grand estate, setting out an elaborate spread. Conversation flowed extensively over the courses. Randall inquired about Ethan's career, his outlook on existence, and his aspirations ahead. As the gathering wrapped up, he pulled Simone aside and confided in a hushed tone, "This fellow is solid, Simone. Upright, reliable, resilient at his core. He'll look after you well. I endorse your decision. Elijah, I believe, would have been pleased to know you've encountered someone like him." Those sentiments carried profound weight for Simone. The endorsement from Randall, the individual who had pulled her from the brink of hopelessness and guided her toward resolution, held great value. As autumn deepened, Ethan popped the question. They were meandering one dusk along the riverside path, admiring how the urban glow danced on the inky surface below. He paused, faced her directly, and retrieved a ring from inside his jacket. "Simone, you have my heart," he declared earnestly, meeting her gaze. "I admire your resilience, your straightforwardness, your compassionate spirit. My dream is to share every remaining day with you, to remain at your side through triumphs and trials, lifting you up and bringing joy to your world. Would you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" Simone met his eyes, rivulets of tears tracing her face, while lingering uncertainties churned inside. Could she claim another shot at joy? Did this dishonor Elijah's legacy? Yet Randall's advice echoed in her mind. She recalled Elijah's essence, tender, devoted, always hoping for her fulfillment. He wouldn't wish eternal solitude upon her. He'd urge her to thrive, to connect, to find contentment. And Chloe would have longed for her mom's radiance as well. "Yes," she breathed, her tone gaining firmness. "Yes, Ethan, I'll marry you." He eased the band onto her finger and drew her into a lingering, affectionate kiss. The metropolis sparkled around them. In that instant, Simone sensed that existence pressed onward, that even after the blackest darkness, daylight inevitably breaks. Their union took place in springtime, amid blooming landscapes and the melody of birds, in an understated affair free of ostentation. Close kin witnessed the exchange: Ethan's parents, Randall accompanied by his son Avery and Avery's household, Anthony Seward with his spouse, and select work associates. Simone donned a graceful cream gown of subtle elegance. Ethan appeared in a crisp charcoal suit. They traded bands and pledges of devotion and partnership. As the officiant proclaimed them wed, the group erupted in cheers. Afterward, they gathered at a cozy eatery for festivities. A sense of familial closeness enveloped the dinner. They made their home in Ethan's flat, a roomy 3-bedroom unit on the 7th level at the urban periphery, overlooking a green expanse. Simone eased into the arrangement, incorporating her belongings, refreshing the decor, and infusing warmth into the space. Daily life fell into a serene, structured flow. They both pursued their professions, Simone handling finances at Coington's company, Ethan serving as an investigator. Evenings brought joint suppers, film viewings, quiet reading, and chats about the day's events. Several months post-ceremony, Simone discovered she was expecting a child. The revelation touched her profoundly. She had never imagined becoming a mother once more. Following the loss of Chloe, the idea of parenting felt out of reach, overwhelmingly sorrowful, utterly inconceivable. How could she embrace another little one while the memory of her daughter lingered so vividly? Yet, upon sharing the news with Ethan and witnessing his response, every uncertainty dissolved. He was overjoyed beyond words. He enveloped her in a fierce embrace that left her breathless, showered her cheeks with kisses, and murmured repeatedly, "This is incredible! It's the greatest update I've ever heard. We'll make fantastic parents. I swear it." His delight was so genuine and unfiltered that Simone found herself swept up in the emotion. She permitted herself to trust that motherhood could return to her, that this incoming baby wouldn't supplant Chloe but would forge a fresh bond, a renewed source of delight in her days. The gestation period passed smoothly and serenely. Simone remained in good health. She continued her job right up to the start of her parental break. Ethan showered her with tenderness and solicitude. Randall, as well, beamed at the prospect of the new family member. He stopped by often, arriving with presents for the anticipated infant. Toys, outfits, storybooks for kids. A youngster deserves to be raised amid affection and abundance, he remarked with a grin. Let him enjoy only the finest things. Let him remain untouched by hardship. Toward the end of May, as the urban landscape bloomed vibrantly with foliage and blossoms, Simone's contractions began. Ethan rushed her straight to the medical center. The birth proceeded swiftly and trouble-free. A robust, vigorous infant boy emerged, announcing his arrival with a robust wail and fists balled up tight. "What name should we give our boy?" Ethan inquired, cradling the fragile newcomer securely, gazing at the minuscule features with awe and affection. "Jamal," Simone answered gently, her eyes brimming with joyful tears as she regarded the baby. Elijah cherished that name. It signifies beauty. I believe it suits him perfectly. Jamal Bell. A striking, sturdy moniker for our child, Ethan echoed, pressing his lips to his wife's forehead. Simone studied Jamal. A warmth deep within her began to melt away completely at last. The delicate, crinkled visage, the shut lids fringed with delicate lashes, the minuscule digits, a fresh existence, a budding optimism, an emerging affection. Beside the lingering ache of bereavement, the thrill of this budding life now surfaced. She envisioned Chloe communicating with her in her thoughts. "Chloe, my darling, pardon me for carrying on without you, yet I hold you close always. I'll never let you fade. You're etched eternally in my soul. But now there's space too for this tiny soul. I'll share tales of you with him, of your remarkable, compassionate, and gifted spirit. You'll endure through our recollections and narratives." Jamal developed at an astonishing pace, far swifter than anticipated. While on leave, Simone poured all her energy into caring for her son. Ethan would come home from his duties and dedicate evenings to interacting with the lad, swaying him gently, crooning soft melodies in his endearing if imperfect tone. Their routine flowed peacefully, structured, brimming with everyday familial bliss. Over weekends, the household strolled through the greenery, called on Ethan's folks, and dropped in on Randall. Randall Coington was utterly smitten with young Jamal. "This little one has reintroduced cheer and giggles to my home," he'd declare, beaming while observing the child at play. "It's been ages since these walls echoed with a kid's merriment. I'm grateful you've welcomed me into your world." Simone sensed her existence was now whole. The grief over Elijah and Chloe's passing endured. It had woven itself into her past, into her very essence. Yet she had mastered coexisting with that sorrow, without letting it dominate her every breath. She had grown adept at cherishing the now, savoring modest instants of delight and opening her heart to love anew. Occasionally, in the quiet of night after Ethan and Jamal had drifted off, Simone would step onto the terrace, tilting her gaze toward the constellations dotting the ebony heavens. She'd ponder the extraordinary path she'd traversed. From utter desolation and a wish to end it all, to fresh vitality, fresh devotion, a rebuilt household, from vulnerability to the resilience that secured retribution. She recalled that moment when Randall entered her space and unveiled the reality. Without his intervention, she'd have remained oblivious to her family's killer. She'd have lingered in the shadows of doubt, eroded by unhealed wounds and unresolved riddles. But he offered her an opportunity. He endangered his own security, his hidden life, to aid an utter unknown. And Anthony Seward, the investigator undaunted by a perilous probe into a formidable criminal overlord, amassed proof, tracked down testimonies, and linked with a principled examiner. And Ethan Bell, the individual undeterred by Sterling's clout, resistant to intimidation or corrupt overtures, pursued the matter in court and secured vindication. Ultimately, he evolved into her spouse, the sire of her boy, her pillar and her passion. Collectively, they accomplished the extraordinary. They demonstrated that fairness can prevail, even amid a realm ruled by authority and wealth. Simone grinned at the nocturnal expanse, the shimmering celestial lights. Out there in the vastness of the universe, Elijah and Chloe observed her. They witnessed her contentment. They rejoiced in her fortune. They beamed with pride at her recovery from ruin, at her pursuit of equity, and rediscovered romance. "Thank you," she breathed into the stillness under the night's gentle veil. She whispered to the twinkling stars above, "I'm grateful for the moments we shared, grateful for the affection, the joy, the countless years we spent as one family. You'll never truly vanish from my thoughts, and I'll always cherish you. I vow you're etched eternally in my soul." A soft gust brushed against her skin, as if an unseen palm caressed her face. Simone shut her eyes and sensed a deep calm washing over her. They had listened. They had comprehended. They had granted her their approval for the fresh chapter ahead. She slipped back into the house, tiptoeing into the bedroom. Ethan lay there in slumber, his arm draped over the spot where she usually rested. Nearby, in his cradle, Jamal's breaths came in gentle rhythms. Simone eased onto the mattress, drew the blanket up, and nestled close to her spouse. Stirring midway through sleep, he drew her in and murmured, "All good." "Yeah," she answered in a hushed tone, and she meant it completely. "All's well, darling." Days flowed on, vibrant and purposeful, brimming with tenderness and optimism. She felt profound thanks for each moment in this reborn existence. She'd crafted herself from the ashes of sorrow and loss. Thanks as well to all those who'd guided her along this journey. Enjoy the tale. And from which town are you tuning in? Drop a note in the comments below. Loved it. Show some love with a super thanks. It helps me craft more tales just like this. A huge thanks for your kind backing. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on it. Check the screen for 2 fresh, inspiring stories I totally suggest. My channel's packed with even more gems. Hit that subscribe button. Catch you soon for another heartfelt journey with warmth and admiration.